Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the Bricks King podcast, where I'm going to bend your ear about Lego, review those amazing bricks of plastic, and discuss what is new and up and coming around the Lego world. I'm your Minifigure host, Matt. Let's bet on it. Welcome in, everybody. How are we doing today? We've got another super duper show of Lego Masters recap. This time, season 2, episode number 10. And there are now currently 4 teams coming into this round. 4 teams. We are down to the last handful of episodes before this thing is kaput and done with. Man, and it's getting more intense as we get further into this competition. It seems even more intense than what the first season was. It's just everything is unexpected going week to week. So this week, yet again, the challenge was just really outside the box. Good luck with this one. It was called Flip My Block. And what they had to do, what the teams had to do, is they were given a basic build of a house. So think of like a renovation show that you might see on television. You're like, okay, they're going to come in, they're going to do this, they're going to change this, and they're going to do that. And they had different elements. Each team had a different element that they had to use, outside the box kind of element to use to be able to incorporate into their build. And man, some of these builds were intense. They were super intense. So if you don't recall, Mark and Steven still have the golden brick. They've had it for like a bajillion years at this point in time, but they still have it. And let's start off with Caleb and Jacob. Caleb and Jacob did something a little bit interesting. I actually built a mock of a ski resort before, just not to this weird, bizarre degree. But they were given snakes, and they chose to do a ski resort that was next to a volcano that oozed out snakes, lava snakes, snake lava. Anyway, it was just wild. The idea, the side of the mountain popped off and snakes come falling. It was really, really cool. Anyway, they had a pair of spinning skis that they used. I thought that was, obviously it wasn't a part of a snake, but it was still a good way of doing things. I thought that was an interesting idea, a bizarre thing to incorporate, if you think about all the movement that you had to do, because that's what we are doing. They're building these homes and they have to incorporate movement into them. So you've got the spinning skis, you've got the movement into the volcano and stuff like that. And even the house shook a little bit. Part of the house shook a little bit. But what I thought was really interesting, and they didn't have a ton of movement in comparison to some of the other teams, but what I thought was really cool is what they did with the snake pieces. If you've ever built some of the more Far East Asia inspired sets, whether it be Ninjago buildings or Chinese New Year stuff, things like that, where you have this ornate detail that is going on there with the roof line and such. And that's what they did. They put the snakes on the roof as texture, as an idea of, it was really neat the way that it was done. And it gave, like, I didn't see the snakes. Like, I saw through the snakes. I knew what it was, but I saw through the snakes to be able to see exactly what was going on with the build in itself. Like, I could see the texture. I could understand the roof. I knew what was going on, and I really enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun to really sit back and just kind of take all that in and not see it as a snake. But I will say this. There feels like, or felt like, something was missing from their build. The building looked a little bit naked for what I'm used to seeing with them. They've done some really amazing builds before, and it just felt like something was missing here. And Jamie mentioned, hey, I wish there was a minifig that would be on the ski lift that rotated around. It was just a chain that went around. Now, I know they were working on it. They just couldn't get it to the way that they wanted. But at the end of the day, I was still hoping, as well as Jamie, to be able to see a minifig. Now, here's my thing. If you're doing this just to test, now I don't know how long they're running this for the judges. I don't know how long, because we're only seeing this edited footage, this small edited footage. So I don't know whether it's like 30 seconds, is it 5 minutes that this power is applied and all these things are moving for the judges to really get a good look, or what. I don't really know. But if it's a short period of time, attach a minifig at a strong point, turn that thing on, And before it gets to the point where it was jumping off or it was knocking the chain off, well, heck, there you go. Now you have an opportunity to, turn the power off before it jumps off or whatever. Now, I don't know what they're doing as far as time, as far as what the judges are looking at and how long the power is applied. So that obviously is just me sitting here in studio, just, taking a shot in the dark, not really knowing the constraints and what is going on. So Mark and Steven, like I said, come into this with the golden brick. They still have that puppy in their pocket. Their build was interesting. It was a rock and roll haunted house. And this thing was very interesting, to say the least. They had Dracula is basically the guy in charge of this thing, but they had creatures galore all over the place, inside and outside, that were moving. There was movement on the inside, movement on the outside. They had like a poltergeist wheel that was spinning on the inside with 3 of them. That was really, really cool done. Even, the roof on this thing even moved, kind of like open and close, like you think of like Monster House style, that movie or something like that. Just really, really crazy. One of their plants on the side was moving, had some moving to it. And they actually used the mug here for the teeth of this plant. Think of it like one of those green plants from Mario that pop out of the tubes, right? Not the cartoon, the video games. And then they also used the cup, the yellow cup on the top of their posts for their fence, which I thought was kind of cool as well. Just a different way to do it. But there was so much movement here. The detail was really good. I really like the color of this scheme. It was more darker. Obviously, it's got to fit that haunted house inspiration type thing that is going on. It's really, you really have to reach down and grab that. And anybody that is on the outside seeing this, that has to come across as, hey, this is a haunted house, not just because we called it one. Here's why. And you get that darker, scary, but at the same time fun idea that it is a haunted house, something that you could fit around Halloween time or whatever, something. But I really like the way that was done. I thought that was really cool. Now, Natalie and Michelle. Let's move on to Natalie and Michelle. Natalie and Michelle. I still have my 2 horses in here. I have them. I have Zach and Wayne. I'm proud of myself for picking when I did and who I did. But it's getting rough. So what they chose to do is their build was called Under the Big Top. It was very colorful, pink and white and I think reddish colors, and just a lot that was going on. You think of Under the Big Top, you think color, you think bright color, you think a lot of just craziness going on. Anyway, so the top, their main tent, their main circus tent, the top of that was spinning around, and that was a triangular build as well. I thought that was kind of really interesting. I did not expect to see something like that, but I really like the way that was done. And I got to tell you, I really like the idea that they did to make the spotlights look as if you could reach out and grab them, as if it's a tangible object, because obviously, spotlights are just what? Light, where the giant bulb is that's shooting the light into the sky. You're like, oh, that is so cool. The way they did it, they actually used plastic pieces that were just white. I believe they were white. I'm pretty sure they weren't clear, but they did it so it was white, and it was just so those 2 were spinning as well. You're getting the attention of everybody around. I thought that was kind of interesting. That was not what I expected. At first, I didn't realize what it was. It looked like kind of like a weird whisk or something like that was rotating in the sky. I was like, what am I looking at? Now, they did have some trouble getting this thing up and functioning at first. They couldn't get one of them, I guess, locked into place or held into place, and they ended up just barely getting it in. And right before they showed it to the judges and were being judged for that build, it was close. It was super duper close. The host of their circus is on a spinning pedestal as well, a little top hat. I thought that was really cool. That was interesting to me. And again, it just so super colorful, so much pop there. The house that they were given and then the house that they created, nothing like it. Totally different. And I'm trying to explain it. And if you have not seen it, if you didn't see it, if you live in a country where you're not able to see it, think of like a gingerbread house meets a circus. That's what it looked like. There's cotton candy trees. There was a actual working popcorn machine that had rotation on the inside of it. Now, here's the other thing. You have all that. It looked wicked. It's great. It's super interesting and intriguing looking. And the judges came back and they said, well, yeah, we love it, but we wish you would have done something more than just have rotation as your movement. And even Jamie had mentioned, well, maybe if you went the other way. Okay, I get that. Okay. But what else? I mean, what else is there really to do motion-wise for what their build was? I know the judges are going to say, okay, at this point in the competition, we expect to see more of this or more of that or more of the something different, something you haven't really touched on, kind of like Jamie and Amy had mentioned. But I still think they did a really nice job for what they created. So the last team here, Zach and Wayne, my horse, woohoo, going to ride them to the stretch. Anyway, they did a flying pig home. Yes, you heard that correct. A flying pig home. Now, what I'm going to need you to do, I'm also going to need you to keep in mind Minecraft here. Okay, so you Bricks O'Brien type people that understand Minecraft really well, I need you to keep this in mind when I go through this, and you'll understand why I'm saying that. So the wings on this thing move, and they move independent. So it looks like a cuttlefish gliding through the water. You know how they have the different undulations in their fins or whatever goes around their body as they're traveling through the water? That's what it looked like as each one of these wings was in a different position. It was just a nice smooth movement as it was going through. And they used the snowboards on the tips of the wings to give that some texture, some color, some designs, even some rigidity, I guess, to a certain point. But it really looked nice in the way that was done. On the top deck, there were propellers the whole way down the length of the build just spinning. It looked like just a bunch of giant fans. Think of, oh my goodness, think of like you go to the store and you're just buying a fan and you just plop a bunch of them. It felt very cartoonish. It felt very like the movie Up-esque. It's what it felt like. Like you're just putting these weird things the whole way down the length to help it propel itself. I thought that was kind of neat. I like the way that was done. And there's room up on the deck for your characters and everything. I did like that. But here's the other thing. This model also spins in a circle. So you have the flapping of the wings. You have the rotation of the propellers. Those are two different kinds of movement. And now we're going to rotate the entire thing in a circle. We're going to spin it in a circle. Now, the spinning movement wasn't the best. It was kind of a little chunky, a little clunky, but it did work out well. Now, their build was super colorful, had so much different blues and like a coral color, if I'm not mistaken. Just a lot of different colors that were going on here, and it worked well. Everything worked. All their movements worked. Everything did what it was supposed to for this build. And then here's the thing that bothered me. Jamie called it blocky. Okay, it is blocky, but they went for more of that style of the image of what they were trying to portray. So while I understand what he is talking about, it wasn't as refined. There were some ugly spots on the bottom of this build. I get that. But really, for everything that it has, okay, that design aesthetic isn't quite there. I mean, are we really comparing this to Mark and Steven and saying Mark and Steven's was so amazing it wasn't blocky? No, they went with the house. Zach and Wayne went with something completely unconventional. So if you're going to praise something and say this unconventional stuff was awesome and then kick them in the face at the same time while saying it's too blocky, I don't quite understand that. And I'm not trying to be harsh with Jamie and Amy on this. That's not my intent here. I just don't quite understand, like, you cut off your nose to spite your face. You know, I don't understand what's going on with that idea of saying, thank you for doing something way outside of the box. But now at the same time, I'm going to critique you because it wasn't within the realm of, taking a block and making it not look blocky when that was the intent behind it to begin with. Yeah. Anyway, so I thought theirs was really neat. So this week, bottom two, and who's going to be your winners, right? So this week, best in show, I guess we could call it, was Mark and Steven. Now, here's the kicker, okay? I understand why they won. I do. I don't completely agree with it. I'm probably 70% on board with it. But they chose to not take the chance of going home and turned in the golden brick. Now, knowing what we're about to know, this could come back and bite them in the butt. So they won. The last 3 teams step in front of the judges. Everybody's sweating. They're thinking, oh God, it's over. We're done. We're going home. Pack your bags. It's time to get out of town. Nobody went home. Yes, nobody went home. Of course, nobody went home. And here's the thing. Ever since the interview that we did with, Dave and Richard last week? Was it Dave and Richard? Nobody was allowed to spread the news like, hey, this week, nobody's going home. I was embargoed just for that. I was embargoed just for that simple time date of telling you that nobody could go home. And meanwhile, I'm watching the show fully aware nobody's going home. I'm like, oh, this sucks. I already know nobody's going home. Let me just see who the winner is. Anyway, so those are your winner, or that was your winner. Those are the people that are staying. They are not going home. Everybody is safe. There are 2 episodes left. Now, here's what I was talking about with turning in the golden brick. Here's where the issue comes. Mark and Steven turn in the golden brick. Fine. I get it. You want to keep yourself alive for as long as possible. I have no issue with that whatsoever. The problem comes with knowing next week is the final week to be able to use it. And you won. And I know hindsight's 2020. I'm fully aware what's going on here. But I did not think their build was in any of danger of sending them home. I really didn't. And I don't know. I really don't know what they're thinking. And that'll be a question that I have for them, ultimately when hopefully I get an opportunity to interview them, whether they have been kicked off or they're the winner. Either way, I'd love to know, what made you push to use that thing at that point in time. So there are 2 shows left. Next week is going to be wild. They have to build a castle off of a wall, off the side of a wall. That's going to be wild. I can't wait to see that. Somebody will go home next week. And then there will be 3 teams that go into the final episode, which I would not be surprised if it's a 2-hour episode. I'm not sure. I can't remember what they did last year. Anyway, that's going to be big. That is going to be a massive show. I'm still riding with my horses. I'm hopeful. I hope the 2 girls and Zach and Wayne are just going to keep on kicking and rolling in hot until we get going. And man, I don't know. So I'd be curious to know, what do you guys think? Who do you think is going to go home? Just on the, we're just throwing out shots down in the dark. Who's going home? You're throwing a dart at a board, seeing who's going home. I honestly don't know. I really don't. Caleb and Jacob looked vulnerable this week. That should scare them. And here's the thing. If you're vulnerable, maybe that kicks you in the butt, gets you into gear, and you're like, you know what, let's go. Now, some of the others, it hasn't. Lauren and Brian, that didn't happen with them. They weren't like, oh God, we're in the bottom 2. We gotta step it up. They continued to, be the status quo and ultimately ended up going home. That was their downfall. Well, obviously not just that. I mean, the build and, that kind of stuff. But they hit that plateau. And then when they were on the chopping block, they never improved. They never did enough to jump above anybody else, which that's scary. That's got to be weighing on Caleb and Jacob's mind to a certain degree, I would imagine. Zach and Wayne, you really don't know what you're going to get with them. I mean, you're going to get great builds with them, but you don't know what the judges are really going to think. I mean, they may knock it out of the park and the judges will be like, oh, it's too blocky. I know. I'm just going to stop complaining about it. I'm just whatever. So I'll be curious to see who goes home next week. Anyway, that's all I've got for you guys today. But I wanted to share some news with you for those of you that are here in Texas or around Texas that are planning on attending this show here in Texas. So here are the details for it. So during the weekend of September 18th, I will only be there September 18th. I will not be there September 19th. Of those of you that are going to be at the show. Anyway, it is called Bricks Killeen. It is in Killeen, Texas. If you don't know where Killeen, Texas is, you can look up the base down there in Killeen and you'll know exactly, because that's why they're on the map more so than probably anything. It is at the Killeen Civic and Conference Center, 3601 South W.S. Young Drive. I don't know what WS, maybe that's some famous person. Anyway, it is free. It does not cost you a single penny to be able to go in there, do your thing, check things out. I do have some stuff in there for for you guys to come see, come check out. We will have the new Harry Potter set on display just at my table as we're doing live. We're going to have hopefully 2 live shows again. But the event runs September 18th and 19th from 10 to 6 on Saturday and 10 to 5 on Sunday. Again, it's free, bricks clean. If you are curious in any way, shape, or form, you can go to the website at bricksclean.com. Colleen is spelled Killeen. If you don't know how to spell it or not quite sure, you can also Google Bricks Clean and get yourself there. So I hope to see some of you there from Texas. I have already talked to a few people that will be there, and I'm going to be perusing in the morning, just seeing what is going on, and then we'll kick off some shows around a little before lunchtime, and then one a little bit later in the afternoon. And anyway, hope to see everybody there. So until our next show, I'm your minifig host, Matt. Let's bet on it.